Evening, Tim. Jeff, just getting my fire going a little bit. I just threw a bunch of green coal in there. I went to fire up my forge tonight, and I turned my back and started doing some other things, and it didn't light. So we're still lighting up the forge a little bit. I got it going now. We're just gonna give it a couple minutes to start burning and pile up some coal and coke it up. And right now she is really, really dirty. I got a lot of fresh coal just piled on the top. But we're gonna pick up where we left off on our nail header, and we got the nail header, and in this block, this bottom part is the wrought iron, this back piece, and then the block is just welded right onto it. And the block is a piece of spring steel, and the bottom part is wrought iron. We're going to push that down a little bit, and then I think what I'm going to do on the back, I'm just trying to figure out, just trying to figure out whether I want to try to round this top, because the top's going to be rounded on this, so that you can come in and, so I don't want it quite that tall, but it is going to get pushed down. So, what was I saying? Oh, on the back side, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and use a round punch, maybe a good size round punch. Maybe this one. I'm going to take this round punch and drive it into the back side and hollow out pretty much the whole bottom of it and leave myself like a quarter of an inch, maybe. Leave my, drive it into here after I flatten it out a little bit, drive it down in, and drive it in and like hollow out a lot of this so that when I punch through the last quarter inch, I'll do that with the square punch, which I have to make yet. And then I'll make a small square punch and we'll punch that through and hopefully have a nail header. And to be honest with you, I don't think I've made a nail in 15, 20 years. I mean, that I can remember. Maybe I have. I don't know. It's been a long time. Alright. So, fire's starting to light up pretty good. It's starting to get warm. I can start knocking it in, because right now it's got a big hollow spot where the wood was that burned out. And yeah, the problem that I've been having is, lighting the coal forge. It lights great. I've been using scrap wood, so I've been using, lately, just some chunks of maple that I had laying around. Some curly maple. And it's not exactly the best lighting stuff. It's not as nice as using softwood. And using like Walmart paper bags because nobody reads the newspaper anymore. And for years we just lit our forges with newsprint. And it was easy peasy, but with the digital age, nobody reads a newspaper anymore. So I got to find a connection for some nice whatchamacallit. All right, so I'll get this in the fire. Then when I pull it out, let's see. That's not going to cut it. Yeah, Alright, so let me get that in the fire, get it starting warming up. I'll bring it up to a good heat because it's got that steel block. Try some Doritos, huh? For lighting the forge. I don't know, I need to go down and go to my local small mom and pop shop store and make up a, you know, tell them, hey, look, you know, I'd like to buy the papers at a reduced price, you know, whatever doesn't get bought during the week or whatever, you know, like if the Sunday paper's still around, halfway through the week, ain't nobody gonna buy it. So we got Corwin in here and Kevin, A.T. Smith Custom Creations. I'm not sure who that is. I mean, I may know, just not know. Let's get a hammer. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to just push that down a little bit so it's not so tall. Actually, you can cut the air down a little bit because I don't want it to burn. But I do want to get it really hot because that's steel top welded onto auto classified books made. The same stuff that newspapers do. Yeah, I mean, I suppose there's plenty of free old books here and there, but I don't want to burn books. I mean, you know. Oh yeah, auto classified. So you mean like, yeah, I know what you're saying. We have, well, I don't know if we have them anymore. We used to have like, oh God. Oh man, what was the name of it? We used to have a newspaper up here this way that was like an auto trader book. Yeah, well, what I need to do is go back to, for a long time, I just lit my forge with, I need to just tell my wife to bring me home some more candle wick. She works in a candle plant and a candle company that makes candles, and so when they make the candles, they have machines that do it. Well, you get chunks off the end of the rolls and stuff, and they just keep throwing them in these boxes. That candle wick works awesome for starting fires. Oh, I can start working now that Thomas is here. I mean, I can't go on and do anything without Thomas here. You know, my loyal forging partner. I'll just toss the balls. I love you like the little sister I never had. All right, so. So we are going to push that down. Now mind you, the one that I saw, the guy never finished, so I'm not really entirely sure how tall he left it. You can see I pushed that block down. I think that I'm going to keep it a little thinner one way than the other because the one that he had was the same way. I'm trying to think if he didn't finish the one that he made, but he did have one already made. But I can't remember how tall it was. This is what I get for not taking notes while I'm there. So, yeah, so we're just goofing around. These tongues aren't the greatest for what I'm trying to grab here. Kind of struggling a little there. I think I'll go down a little bit more, and then I'm going to squish it sideways. Or you know what? Maybe I'll make it round. So I won't squish it sideways. starting to get that tip into one side. That's why I'm pushing this back. Alright. See, we're squishing it down. Everything looks alright. I do have a spot that I may end up having to rasp off before I go any further because it's going to create a cold shut. It's right on the end. The thing is, I got to find a rasp. I got one of them Farrier's rasps around here somewhere. Yeah, I got one of these Farrier rasp things. And to be honest with you, I never really use them. I grab a grinder and just grind it. Alright, let me rasp that section off before it ends up coming back to haunt me. Ooh, that's aggressive. Well, I never really did a lot of hot rasping, but that actually is pretty aggressive. Took it off a lot faster than I thought it was going to. Alright, that'll work. All it was when I set the block on top, it was kicked back just a little bit. It welded on nice, but then I had a little chunk sticking out. I drove it back, and when I drove it back, it kind of pushed it up and created a cold shut. So I wanted to get rid of it before I went any farther because this part was sticking out farther than that block. Then when I hammered it back, it started to create a cold shut, and I wanted to get rid of it. So now I've gotten rid of it. Let me get them in and figure out what I'm doing from here. Well, I got one rasp. This one. And only because I've had a couple of them and I've used the steel to make steel bits and stuff in tools. Like if I did a regular mild steel or wrought iron body and then welded on a bit, I'd use a Farrier rasp every once in a while. Somewhere around here I probably got a half of one where you can see I just cut off a bunch of little pieces until it's half the Farrier's rasp. Not sure where it is right off the top of my head, so I'm not going to stress over it either. Yeah, I think a little bit better pair fitting. Let's have the tongs will help. Can everybody hear me? I don't know, Thomas. Maybe at Quad State, bring a couple with you. And I have a 2x72 grinder over here. You just can't see it. It's off the screen. And I'm not a big knife maker. That's just the thing. I don't have anything against knife makers. I like to joke around and be like, ugh, knife makers. But working metal is working metal. we're going to start working on rounding this. So you can see I'm starting to round it. I'll keep working on it, get a little more round. Then, like I said, after that, I'll probably go in from the back side and just drive this bullnose punch about all the way, almost all the way through. Not all the way, but like 3/4 of the way through or so. Leave, 3/16 to 1/4 of an inch at the bottom of it. And then that is where I'll actually drive through with the little square punch to make the hole for the nail, which I do not have, so I'll have to make a square punch as well. And for this, as often as I'm going to use it, I don't even know if I'm going to bother grabbing a piece of coil spring. Yeah, I do have some sitting around. But I may just make it out of a small piece of square, thinking one-time use. It's starting to come into round. I will work it a little more. It's hard to see on the camera, but it's still pretty ratty looking at. And you got to remember the big block on the end is a piece of coil spring, and I cut it off. This, which was that was the diameter of the coil spring. They're about this big around and that tall. I don't think it. Oh, I do have one. And where are you from? Oh, the Gathering. I do have a piece that I could probably reach without moving the cameras and stuff. It's not a full spring, it's just one loop out of one of the springs that's cut off that I can show you what I'm talking about. it's getting there. We got a nice chunk out on the end, and we're making it round. I'll get that back in the fire. See if I can get this without moving the camera. Yeah, it should work. Okay, so it's a chunk off of a spring. But you know, it's good size. I don't know. It's about 1.5 inch diameter. So it's a chunk off of that. Probably the same one that I had made square, straightened it out, and I made it square for something else, and I had cut off a chunk of it in order to use it on this. I used to have access to a lot of them, and I brought a lot of them home and gave them away and put them in the iron and hats and everything. And now I don't work where I used to, so I don't have access to them anymore. Now what I'm doing is just rounding it over. You can see I'm starting to round it over. I'll take it, heat it back up, and do it again. Yeah, that was actually, it's off of a shaker table. And it's just a big table that sits on 4 of them big springs. And it got 2 massive vibrators on top. They're like 50 horse motors. There's 2 of them up there. And it just vibrates, and the sand falls out of caskets. Alright, so we'll do some rounding on this, but I do want this to be pretty round. I don't want it to be, right now it'd be about close to a normal flatter, which is fine too. All right. Now I'm starting to take all my round out of it. I didn't want to do that. Alright, we're still going. I wanted to kind of take that flare out, but when I did, I started taking the round out and making it oval again, and I don't want to do that. So this is kind of one of them exercising and 2 steps forward, 1 step back, I guess. Unless I can find a different way to do it. Like maybe just driving it into the swage block. I don't think that's deep enough for what I need, but I'll try it. All right, Kevin. I want to go. It's just yeah, they're not very far from Quad State, from Troy, are they? Man, I want to go someday, but I just started a new job, so my vacation's limited. I will have time to go to Quad State. That's kind of giving me a nice curve, nice round. Might take one more heat, sink a little more. Maybe just trim some of that off. Then I just have to decide if I want to do it by hand. Probably should, since I'm doing everything else. You know, a piece of wrought iron and high carbon steel welded together. That actually worked fairly decent. I think it might be the first time I've ever used any of the dimples in this block. Might need a little more persuasion. Drive it down in there. That looks good. And that really made that nice and round. But what I do have is basically some flash along the edges that I think I might just put it in the vise and take that flash off with the rack. There is quite a bit here on this one edge. But that rasp is pretty aggressive, so too aggressive. I can't get it to start. Really, it needs a handle. That's half the problem. I got another idea. Let that cool a little bit. What I might do is let that cool a little bit. You see, I got a nice round piece, but then I got flash from driving it down in a hole. I was going to just file that off, but it's not coming off too easy. I'm just going to set it there and let it cool just a little bit. I'm going to throw a 36 grit belt on. And I'm going to take it off so that I can move on. I mean, I suppose I could hammer it out, but it would be easier to grind, a lot easier. Because when I go to hammer it out, when I hit down on it, it's going to change another part of it, and it'll just be a pain. So you just throw on a coarse grit belt and just zip. zip that right off. My 2x72 is homemade. It's just made out of receiver tube and 2-inch square stock from and then I just ordered the wheels and motor. Where did I put it? Alright. No, I have it, just not this way. Now, if you're a traditionalist, you can do the same thing with a file. And I'm not really doing anything that you can't do the old-fashioned way. And that literally buzzed all that flash off around that. But I do have back here and here. And I'll just cool this down so I can hold it. I think it's cool enough that it's not going to harm the steel that's on it. All right. Alright, that took the flash all off. Now I'm fine with it. You can see this side I did take quite a bit off. On that side I took hardly anything. You can still see how close that was to where it was supposed to be. Alright. What I may do is just work on in here a little bit. And it doesn't lay flat. It's got to lay flat, but I can probably wait till I get close to the end for that. Maybe I'll just go ahead and punch my hole down in there right now. So I'm going to punch my hole down in there. I'll want to take a, find a piece of soapstone. Try to find the center. You know, it's amazing how accurate your eyes can be when it comes to finding the center and stuff like that. I've always been amazed that you can get pretty darn close just by eyeballing. So I'm going to put a pretty good sized dimple in there. Pretty good size it is. I did get it kind of in the wrong spot. I need to come back this way a little bit more. Let me try to adjust that. Sometimes you can go in right next to the old hole and push it over. that looks a little better. So I'll just use this hole that's closer to me. All right. Turn my air back on. Pull out a few clinkers here. Yeah, I know, there's nothing less exciting than staring at my backside, but I have to clean out a couple flickers. Well, the ball end, yeah, like a tie rod end. I did see one where the guy took the tie rod end and knocked the ball part out of it, and then just welded a plate on over the top of it and punched his hole into that. Alright. I suppose before I go any farther, I really do need to make a small square punch so I can punch the hole in the bottom. And I don't think I'm going to use anything really fancy, probably just a piece of mild steel. It's probably going to be a one-time use. So I'll throw that in. Yeah, and it's tough doing live streams because a lot of times when I make something, everybody sees the finished product, but they don't see, you know, like I walked over there and cheated and used the thing, the 2x72, instead of doing it all by hand. But I could have done it all by hand. It would have stretched it out and made it a pain in the butt, and I don't think it would have came out as nice. I mean, right now I've got a nice curve. Got a little flat spot on the top. You can see that. I don't think I could have got the same results as I did with that. If I made one from a rail spike, got it too flat. Yeah. Woo! Got that piece hot. I got it so hot that before I go hitting it, I'm just kind of taking my brush and knocking off the little crumbly stuff that's on the surface. You can see I got that down just about to where I want it. Now, drawing tapers is one of the most basic things in blacksmithing. I mean, you should try to draw tapers. Do things like fireplace pokers or stuff like that. That are gonna require you to draw down tapers in order to make the bends or make the flat ends. I think everybody should start out and do a lot of them before they move on and try to do more complex stuff. Because when you can draw nice tapers and you can draw them, I mean, you say, this is 1/2 inch stock. I drew that taper out in one heat. And that was after I lost a bunch of heat. Because I overheated it, I had to wait for it to cool down a little bit before I could start hammering it. But I see people draw out tapers and they're just really rough looking, really coarse. Okay, now I'm just straightening. I don't need a lot of heat to straighten. I think that'll be all right to give me a square punch. I don't think I have to do any filing or anything. I might just knock the tip off, the very tip. And you can see I'll let the temp come down on this a little bit. Try to hold it at an angle so you can see it. It's pretty smooth, doesn't have a lot of hammer marks. It's mild steel. I'm just going to go ahead and quench it. Get my other piece in the fire. So I'll just use this to basically just make the hole for my nail, the last step there. And like I said, I'll just knock the tip off. So I have a good square hole. And there's a few guys on here that do pretty good blacksmithing. And the new guys, you know, you newer guys, just keep at it. Practice, practice, practice. And you'll be able to forge and not have to do much filing after you're done. And I don't know if you can see how flat that is. And that's just a basic punch. I'm going to flip the other end around and just hit it on the grinder. But you can see I didn't touch any of them sides. All I did was ground this point back a little bit. Now on the other end I just ground it because it wasn't flat. And I wanted to make sure it was flat so that when I hit it I can drive it straight. Alright, so that's in there. Then we got our bigger punch. That's rounded. I'm going to drive that in roughly 3/4 of the way. See how this works. And to be honest with you, I rarely hammer punch and drift it. Drift has been way more complicated than the drift. I mean, I have a few drifts that I made, nothing fancy at all. Over the years. That one's just got, I actually welded that back on because I didn't have enough handle. That was the first one I ever made. And that's pretty round. It's got two flats on it, but it's pretty round. And then the other two that I made after that have quite a bit more round or flat to them. You know, and I just made them round and then flattened them right off. There's the drifts. As far as a hammer punch, I don't really have a dedicated hammer I punch. I never got around to making one. If I do them on the power hammer, I just use this. And that just makes a round hole, and then I open it up with my drift afterwards. And if I do them by hand, I usually use sometimes a tool like this, a top tool, but a longer one. And sometimes I'll use a combination. Like these ones. Because I don't have actually a dedicated hammer eye drift like a lot of people do. Never got around to making one. Handle just fell out of my hot cut. I don't put wedges and stuff in, not striking, yeah, striking tools, I guess. Handle top tools, I don't put wedges in them. I guess you kind of want them to be, you're going to break the handles, I guess. You talk to people that have been doing it for a long time, they know what they're doing. They tell you, you're going to break the handles. So they don't recommend you putting the handles in there too terribly well. I got to go in with something smaller than that. Get a good, give it started first. I drove that in. That was my center punch. It was glowing. But I have a bunch of these, and all they were was we had taps. Machines that would drill and tap parts out. And they had like 4, 5, 6 heads, and they put like 4, 5, 6 parts in. They'd go to one station, drill them out, the table would turn to the next one and tap them. The table would turn to the next one and eject, and then the guy would load them in. So these machines had big taps in them, 5/8, 3/4, 1 inch. And so I bring these taps home. And just grind the edges on them. There's probably 4 or 5 more laying around here, just out of sight. And I just grind them and make them, and I'm telling you, they are hard. Oh man, I don't know if that one's going to be hard much anymore now that I took it right up to red heat, but we'll see. Let me get a little. Whoop, whoop, whoop. And like I said, I might make a nail and test it afterwards. And like I said, I probably haven't made a nail in 15, 20 years. So don't be expecting that one heat nail. All right. Yep, sure. So what's everybody else working on right now? What projects we got going on? I pretty much got nothing for projects. Just doing these streams here and there. I really should start on a nice big project to, you know, to take the quad state either this year or next year, but I don't know. I'm trying to work up the ambition. My problem is if I start building something for quad state, I'll end up going over the top and it'll be something huge and take me months to finish. Alright, should be getting close. Yeah, we're a little cold. My fire's kind of cold. But we'll go ahead and get what we can. Alright, now I'm going to stop and just see where I'm at. I think I'm about halfway down in there. These guys, I'm not going to let it cool for you to see it. I'm about halfway down. You'll have to take my word for it. I don't want to lose all the heat and have to start over from a cold heat again. But like I said, I'm going to run that in, push most of that material out of the way. This doesn't have as high a dome as I wanted originally, but I think I'm alright with it. If I want a really high one, I might try again later to make a really, really high one so that I can come in and, you know, put nice steep facets on a nail if I decide to make a decorative nail. Alright. And this hammer here was, I made it many, many, many years ago. It was a chunk of forklift time. And it was rectangular, and I squished it all down, and, you know, it was like 1.5 by 4 inches wide, and I squished it down and upset it. And Alright, pull it out, do a depth check. I think I want to go a little bit more, but what I'm not liking is I'm flattening the heck out of the top, and I didn't want that top to be so flat. So I think what I may have to do is heat that up. Heat that up, put the swage block up, put it over that depression, and drive this in. I mean, this tool, I don't know. If you look at this back end, it's that long, and the front end's, you know, half that. I don't know if this might have been a longer one at one time that somebody cut down. This is pretty much the way I got it. And I've used it for years. Alright, let's try putting the swage block up there. Someday I'll make a stand for my swage blocks. Get the big hammer. Alright, so I'm just driving this in because you don't need, you know, the back side of that hole. You want that nail header hole to be like this on the back side, not this. So you don't want to drive your punch in from the top. You want to drive it in from the back side so that it opens up, so that it doesn't lock your piece in. Alright. I'm going to go over and put it. Well, I was going to go over and put it in my vise to get that to pop out, but it popped out. It did not do what I wanted. It still has a big flat spot on the top. I don't know if you can see that. Big flat spot. So we're gonna give it one more time into that hole. Might actually work better if I don't know, because then I won't drag the center down. You say if I grab a ball peen and just use that instead of that. This round punch. All right, Tom. Yeah, I got a little more tweaking anyway before I'm done. I imagine that square punch, I'll probably get it locked in there a couple times. Fight with it, especially since it's mild steel. Alright, I'm going to spin it the other way. Sorry about that. Okay. The first hit felt like it was moving. The second hit felt good and solid. And it did push that quite a bit. There is a big chunk of scale on it though. I don't know if you can see that. It's got like a weird blister on it. I don't know if I want to leave that there. I think I want to try to work that out. Or you know what it might be? Might be that's the part where the ball is and was pushing it up against this real coarse casting. Because these Holland anvils, when you get them, and I've never done anything to this, when you get them, they're rough castings. And that might be what left that weird looking blistery thing there. Alright, well if that's the case, then maybe we'll set that down, grab a smaller hammer, get our little square punch and start to work on punching the hole through. Remember, this is just a mild steel, so I don't want to get too aggressive with it without cooling it, because it will mushroom. It already started to. Can take that mushroom right off and go right back in. Still got a little heat there. That was what I was saying. I knew I was going to get that stuck a couple times. It really wasn't that bad. And you can see where it went down to. Yeah, I'm trying to think if I've ever made a header. I think I did once, yeah. I know I did once. But I think it had a really, really big square hole in it. And it was about useless for anything but big spikes. Wow. Yeah. I mean, Thomas isn't here right now, so I can hit it with the grinder. You know, because he's too traditionalist. Now, I do have a little bend in it. Should be able to go over my Pritchell hole right now. Push the punch through. That's good. And the punch did go all the way through. So I have to work on it a little more. Man, I don't know what I did today, but I've been bending over and reaching like that, and I get a spasm in my back right between my shoulder blades. Oh, right there. All right. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and hit a little bit from the top side, open up the hole a little bit, then flip it over, go over the hole, and come in from the back side to make sure that it has the draft so that the nail will not lock itself in. Alright, so, and I can't see the hole well enough to do that yet. There we go. All right. Now I'm not going to make the mistake I did before, and that was I hit it with a hammer. Well, you can see the hole, nice square hole. The back's recessed out so that, you know, we're only relying on a little bit on the top. Now, last time I hit the top, but because it pushed the material up, when I hit it, it kind of closed the hole back in and the hole disappeared. And I had to take another heat just to open the hole back up. So this time, I'm just going to take the file, the wrap, and just rasp that little lip down that got pushed up. Alright, now we just need to do a little straightening on it. And we should be pretty close to done. What I don't like is I got a thin spot here. It's thicker than it is back there. I don't know if I'm going to mess with it, to be honest with you. And it could easily thin out the spot in behind it so that it's not thinner there than there. Thin that out, but I don't think I'm gonna, I really honestly don't think I'm gonna use this enough to say so. But I may want to make it look nice in case I put it in an iron hat or something, I guess. So, I just need to do a little straightening and some adjusting. Maybe I'll thin that out a little bit since I got it in the forge right now, and it's still pretty early. Alright. So yeah, my square mild steel punch worked just fine. Like I said, one-time use. I'm not gonna make a ton of nail headers. I do have square drifts that are made out of spring steel and whatnot. They were just too big. You know, these were made out of spring steel squares. Same thing with round. I got a few round ones made out of spring steel. You know, a lot of round ones, but I do have some short ones. All right. Pull her out. Let's fix that so I don't have that thick spot. I mean, it's not the end of the world, I guess, if I take one extra heat to fix that up and make it look nice. Or even 2 heats. Now I'm just knocking the corners off. So now it's more consistent, not perfect. What I'm going to do is, this is shifted to one side. I'm just going to heat it up, shift it to center. Probably have to flip it around to the other end so that I can work the part of the handle where my tongs were hooked. So what's everybody else working on these days? And that's the thing, like a lot of the, if you watch really, really good smiths, I'm not horrible, but I'm not very good. Not compared to real smiths that do it, you know, day in, day out. You watch them do something like this and they won't have to go grind anything off. They'll make it even and everything will be straight. And that just comes with practice and repetition and doing it over and over and over. All right. Let me shift that over. Matter of fact, I think I went a little too far. Alright, that doesn't look too bad. It's pretty centered, lined up. I should have left well enough alone because when I pushed that down, I got it to fold over and it looks like a crack right there, but really what it is a cold shut. I don't know if you can see it. It's right there. Let me get my pointer so that I don't burn my finger. Alright, it's right there. I like my pointer, I made that out of a railroad spike. Alright, but that end looks pretty good. Now I really just need to see, does it sit nice and flat? It does on that end. Let's see. They don't grab it bad, but they don't grab it great. And I'm not Thomas. I like my tongs to fit so they don't end up, you know, using my face to catch it. If y'all saw that video, you know what I'm talking about. Me and Thomas were at Quad State during the competition a couple of years ago, and he had tongs that did not fit very well, and the piece came up and knocked his hat off his head. He was hammering and the piece was tipping back and forth, and then he hit it, and it just popped that piece up and knocked his hat right off. I suppose I should see if I got a piece of 1/4 inch round, huh? Laying around somewhere. Alright, I got to do a little bit here. Flip it over. Everything should be flat to the anvil based upon I got a little bend in it. We'll take that bend out. This is the part that I can't stress enough. I see guys that'll put it down and just start beating the heck out of it, and they'll bend it way off where it's supposed to be because they don't pick it over or flip it over and check to see where they're at as they're doing it. Okay, that looks pretty straight. It looks all right. This will stay in the shop. I'm not going to put this in an iron in the hat or anything like that, just because of that cold shut right there. That doesn't mean I might not. I can cool that whole handle in. I'm not worried about that. That's just wrought iron. So, yeah, it doesn't mean I might not make another one. I might make another one to put in the iron hat. You can see that's a pretty small hole, maybe 1/8 inch. It's probably all you want. I don't know. Okay, let me see if I can't find a small chunk of quarter by a quarter round. I mean, I know I have some, but I don't want to. Okay, here we go. Yeah. All right. So let's do a nail. Like I said, I probably haven't done a nail in 20 years. All right. Let's see what happens. Hang on, now I gotta square it up. Should have used a let me just take another heat because I mangled that. Now, when I see people make nails, I've always seen them just do the two sides. You know? And then when they put it in the header, they push the material over to the other side. Hey, Lexi. Oh, shit. So this is something, like I said, I don't think I've made a nail in 20 years. And you can see that that is for a pretty small nail. So this has got to go a long ways before I'm ready. I probably should have made a shorter nail, almost like a tack. You know what? I think I'm gonna just chop that up and start over. All right. Let's try that again. That piece fell down on top of a 5-gallon pail down here. Ooh, that plastic's burning. It's a stinking. Ugh. we're going to go for more of a tack, because that's a pretty small square hole in that header. Go back here where it's a little bit sharper. So you can see, like I said, you're not going to see me do one of them one heat nails. If I practiced all day, by the end of the day I might be able to make a nail in one heat. Maybe. Or if I made the hole a little bigger in that. Because that's definitely tack size, not nail size. How close are we? Yeah, we're about halfway out. I am going to just go ahead and push a little bit more out cold. Huh. I got less than I had. Yeah, it is a pretty small hole. Now that it's cooled, you guys can see it. Which is fine, because sometimes you need smaller nails, almost like tacks, like if you're putting leather on a bellows or... We're almost there. So we're going to call that good. We're going to straighten this out a little bit. Like I said, I probably haven't made a nail in 15, 20 years. And right now my fire is so dirty. rod down. I let it slide over and hit the edge of the hardy hole that I was over, but not a very good one, that's for sure. And it's crooked because it slid over. There's a nail. Hard to see. Nothing fancy, but I don't even have board in here other than hardwood. Nothing fancy, and like I said, if you look at a lot of them, they're not centered on the back. If you look at a lot of your old ones, they do try to kind of push it over to the side they need it to, and they're usually not this bad, but a lot of them aren't centered. And once you put them in, you'll never know. Chunk of maple. No, I split it, but there you go. Once it's in, you'll never know. Even if I did split that piece. I really don't know why I'm pulling this piece out. Yes, I do, because I want to use this piece to light my fire. I don't want the nail in it. But yeah, I guess that's about it. I mean, that's a nail header. Nothing fancy. Not the best one, that's for sure. I don't even know where I put it down. Back here. So, just a nail header with a wrought iron body, and this was a piece of spring steel that's welded on the top. And like you can see, I drove that big drift in there and then just punched through. Where I punched through, it's maybe 3/16 of an inch, 1/8 inch or so, and the rest is just open space. And the other end just has a little hook so I can go over and hang it with all my other tools on the front of my forge. Because, like I said, this one here, it has that cold shut right there at the end of that where it welded. And because of it, it looks like, I don't know if you can see it, but that cold shut, I don't like it. So it's just, you know what I probably could do is take that up to Welding Heat, because that is wrought iron in that area. I could probably take it up to Welding Heat and just weld it right together. Yeah, come on baby, light my fire. Come on, set the world on fire. Yeah, see, that's why I don't sing it, because I can't sing. But yeah, that's it. Once again, Lexi, you stopped in right at the end. You know, I may end up doing another one next week. Try to make a better one that doesn't have the little issues that this one does. This one, and it's not sitting flat, so that needs to be addressed. That's all it took. Now it sits flat. But yeah, I might do a second one. Learn from my mistakes and get a handle on my rasp. That'll help. So I think this is maybe the second one I've ever made. And believe it or not, as bad as this is, it looks better, way better than the first one I did. Because I did the first one when I first started blacksmithing. That was a long time ago, and it was really, really, really crude. If you want to I suppose I could have went back and hardened it too, because that top is a piece of spring steel. But I really don't think I'll need to. But yeah, there's one. I think maybe next week I might do another one, but I'll prep the pieces and get them down to the right sizes so that I don't waste a whole stream just trying to, you know, the piece of rod I used for this was a chunk off from this bar. Which was approximately a square off that bar. I mean, if I wanted to get fancy too, I've seen them where they have two nail headers, one on each end, and just different sizes. But so has anybody got any questions or anything, or? You know, I mean, realistic questions, Alexis. You know, because I'll be like, anybody got any questions? And then somebody will be like, yeah, where were you July 10th of 1982? You know. There. Should have half inch somewhere. Right there. Just putting my tools back. So the next time I reach right up and wrap them where they belong. If I did that with more tools around my shop, I'd be able to make things a lot easier. Nope, no questions, no nothing. Well, in that case, then, I guess I can go in and eat my dinner. Down, throw it up here. Yeah, and that piece of 1/4 inch round I don't think was mild either. July 10th, 1982. Now let's see. I was 9 years old. Don't imagine I was doing anything really exciting, that's for sure. Not the household I grew up in. All right, well guys, I'm gonna call it. And like I said, I may do another one of these just to try to do it and get it right. I mean, that's part of blacksmithing. Sometimes I want to do something different every week, but sometimes when I'm doing something and I run into a problem, and to me that's a failure, I want to do it again, and I don't see myself doing it again unless I do it during a live stream as just filler material. But yeah, there we go. That's it is what it is. I don't like that. Oh man, yeah, I don't like that. That part that I said 10 times is cold shut. I think it's a potential source where it may crack. But if I go in and I heat that up to a high welding temp and weld it back together, that cold shut, that'll thin out this area, and then I'll have to thin everything in behind it to match it. So, and most of these I've seen were actually quite a bit heavier than this. You know, they're bigger, they're heavier. I just started out with a piece of stock and just went for it. Next Monday. Oh yeah, it's Monday morning for you there. Forget that. Yeah, well, like I said, if I do the same project next week, which I may, because I want to get it right, I'll go ahead and I'll knock down the wrought iron into the right size, you know, before I start, so I don't run into all the trouble I had. Well, not trouble, but I spent the whole stream pretty much trying to get the bar down because the piece I started with was way too big and flat, and then same thing with the, you know, I had a square chunk that I had to draw out to get length on. But yeah, I'm going to call it a night, guys. Have a good one. Thanks for stopping in. I appreciate the support. Not that I have very many followers or subscribers. I really don't. And I don't really care if I have a ton or not, as long as, you know, I get the same guys when we come in, and most of the people I've met or I'm going to meet someday. And it's all good. For me, I don't care how many people are watching. I'm going to do my thing, and most of the people that do come in pretty much just come in to see what I'm up to.